Millennium. De volgende eeuw. Het volgende millennium. De verandering van de 1 in de 2 in onze datum. Een gebeurtenis die dus maar 1 keer in de 1000 jaar voorkomt. En die om allerlei redenen heel belangrijk is. Psychologisch. Qua computerproblematiek. Omdat er iets gaat veranderen. We weten het niet. Het einde van het Aquarius-tijdperk. We hebben een aantal gesprekken met mensen over millennium. Vandaag doen we dat in het Engels met Fantuzzi. Fantuzzi is master drummer, entertainer. And someone who has traveled the breadth and the width of the alternative world. Huh?
I have traveled quite a bit, the alternative and the not so alternative. And very happy to be here with you, Luc Sala.
Fantuzzi, for me, you are someone who is in tune with the rhythm of times. You're a master drummer, but you do that at occasions like the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, the Ruigoord festivals, but also on many, many international festivals, the Rainbow festivals all around the world. You perform in California. You live in Los Angeles most of the time?
No, I'm based out of San Francisco, but I traveled to Hawaii and Australia and many places. So I'm kind of an eclectic global troubadour, you know.
Now, as a troubadour and a songwriter and a drummer, you have to have a feeling for what the mood of the people is. Well, how do people feel about millennium?
Well, the people have many mixed feelings. There seems to be a new hysteria coming up. And very nervous about this problematic thing.
A panic.
A major panic. I mean, like you can't conceive. Right now there are workshops going on all over the United States and people are very, very nervous about what's happening. But I don't...
When you say workshop, are you talking about workshops for the computer bug, the millennium bug, or are these survivalists?
I think it's a little bit of both. We're talking about people who are very concerned about the computer situation, but also are afraid that all of the different ways to get food and different things to survive with are not going to be there, including electricity, blah, blah, blah. So these people...
Water, basic amenities, telephone.
Exactly. And people are very, very nervous about this. Now, we were around before these computers. So my personal feeling is that computers or no computers, we're going to be here and they're not really going to make much of a difference. Of course, there's a paradox going on. My feeling is that the millennium is going to bring the rebirth of Christ in consciousness, not as one being, but the enlightenment, the return of consciousness, the return of Christ in a very subtle kind of way.
So you see the millennium as a spiritual moment in time, a big change that's happening in our lifetime around this year 2000.
You see, there's many different calendars going on at once. We have the Mayan calendar, we have a lot of ancient calendars, Jewish calendars. So this Gregorian calendar isn't the only one that's going around and been around. But since we are using it, it tends to bring a focus for lots of people, for an opportunity to make a quantum leap in consciousness. I'm an optimist. That's my duty, is to bring hope. And so I see it as an opportunity for a major transformation. Now, as we get closer to it, hearing all these hysteria, I notice that it may not be as obvious. It may have to be a rebirth in consciousness in a much more subtle kind of way.
But you say that because we're going through dark times, that will lead to some kind of catharsis with the people, and they'll realize maybe we don't need all this electricity or all this modern stuff. There's another way of life, there's another way of being.
That, yes, but not only that we don't need, it's more like, and it's not only that, but that will be using like all of the different things that bring us into an awareness of, well, we may not live, then what is life? You see, a little bit of a wake-up call, a little bit of a bell is happening. And I feel that this is going to cause people to think about their lives and about the way they live their lives. Not necessarily that we can do without this or do without that. But maybe that's so too. Maybe that too, you know. But mostly it's more about why are we here, and what are we going to do with our energies that we are here? Are we just going to continue chasing our own tail, or are we going to get busy waking up the planet?
Now you are part of a movement, say the what we now call the rainbow movement. You've been to many of their gatherings. We're actually here in Dalfsen, which is in Holland, where there's a small rainbow gathering going on. We're sitting in front of a spiral. Teepees are being built behind us.
Drums are being played in the background.
Yeah. Is that a new awareness?
Definitely, this is an ancient new awareness.
It's revival of the old.
Yeah, of the old ways of living communally, as opposed to everybody separate in their own little apartments. We share our food. We share our God-given gifts. If you have the gift of writing, then you put that to work. If someone else has the gift of teaching massage, I know there's a massage class going there right now. So everybody living, you know, back to nature and getting close to the, you know, the basic things in life, to enjoy life. You know, we are here to live, not just to make the big dollar, you know, and not to become necessarily famous or powerful or rich. Mm-hmm. But to find out what life is and what love is and what light is and who we are and how we relate. So this revival is happening simultaneously all over the world. It's known as rainbow, but not only as rainbow, it's also ecology conscious people, and there's also alternative people of every sort going on. Even your basic native people are learning different ways to be in tune with nature so that they don't hurt nature, because there's a lot of chemicals that are made that now some third world people use, you know. First world people don't see any use for them or find out they're now good, so they sell them to third world people. Thank God some of them are waking up and are not using them or finding alternative ways of being. So this rainbow consciousness is waking up all over the world. Right now, Australia is booming, and right now in Europe, in Israel, in Africa, we have rainbow gatherings going on, and it's just a sign of that, especially the young people, but all people are looking for something with a little bit more depth.
Yeah, but that's true, and the people are here, and you know, this morning there was Tai Chi and massage and all the things that we maybe associate with the New Age. But then you look what's happening with the New Age movement. That's on a wider scale a little bit dying in the West.
Well, you could say it's a little bit dying, but I don't believe that it's dying. I think that it just doesn't have the same kind of, it's like the hippie movement. You think that the hippie movement is dead? You're wrong. The hippie movement isn't dead. It's just changed, that's all. It's in this corner over here. Same thing with the New Age movement. I go now to a whole life expo, and before there used to only be like one producer for a whole life expo in maybe one or two major cities in the United States. There's now 20 different promoters in 40 different cities at least in America, and we're talking about, these are big events where easily 10, 20, 30,000 people walk into these events. So we can't call that dead.
Yeah. Yesterday you told a story about how the beginning of the Rainbow Tribe, as we now can see it, started with 6 people who had this idea of bringing people together, and they made a trip from the east to the west in the USA, and they went to every health food store they passed, and those were all the health food stores. They put up signs, and they brought together, what was it, 20,000 people?
40,000 people came to the first Rainbow Gathering.
Yeah, but now if someone wants to go to all the health food stores in the States, he has to, you know, months of work.
Well, actually, they took 1 year to go across the country and doing this, and you couldn't do it. You'd have to go up and down the coast and then up and down, and like as you go across. And in fact, by the time you get across, there'll be that many more new health food stores that have opened up, you know.
So that's changing. People are a little bit more living healthy and looking in ecology. Music, you make music. For me, you know, being a little outsider in music, I haven't seen much new music after the house. We came from the Beatles and some revival music, African music. We got the house music. What's new? What did you see a new change there for the millennium? Is there something like millennium beat?
Well, I don't know about a millennium beat, but we find world music, world beat music growing in a wonderful way. We find also rainbow music growing right now. There's people singing these songs that are more like chants, and they know these chants all around the world. So you see some things coming up, and maybe it's not going commercial, Maybe it's all growing on a more grassroots level, which I think is healthy. So the record companies, well, they're trying to figure out what's the new music to make the money, and maybe they can't figure it out because it's not as marketable, maybe. It's much more from person to person, community to community. That's what I see is happening. And of course, you also, even though, reggae music has been around, you see great leaps and bounds in world beat music, including Latin music, reggae music, because you have right now Japan buying more reggae music than any part of the world. And you see Latin music is loved right here in Holland, yeah? Yeah. Het is waar, yeah?
You're not a real Rastafari, but what's the Rastafaris? How do they feel about the millennium?
Well, I won't know. I wouldn't call myself Rastafarian, though I do follow the faith and have a lot of agreements in the ways of looking at life. And how they see the millennium, well, actually, they don't buy that. Rastaman is into the culture, roots and culture, strictly roots and culture. None of this, fanning new millennium stuff. They don't really go, Rastaman don't go for Christmas and all these different things that, calendars come up with.
They go for the now.
They go for the now, they go for the eternal, for the Most High, just to give thanks and praises and going back to the roots, sitting around the sacred fire, singing the songs of praises to the Most High. And it don't matter if it's New Year's or if it's New Millennium, it's now, like you said. It's the moment. You got to grasp the moment to serve your community, to serve the Most High. Jah, Rastafari.
But then there is also groups of people, religious people, that are fundamentalist, that have a more fearful view on the millennium. Yeah. In the past, we've had the year 1000 was like frightful. Oh,
that's
things
right.
gonna happen. Do you see that in the States or around the world? That say Christian people or fundamentalist groups are more afraid?
I haven't seen, maybe I haven't been in touch with the fundamentalists, but I haven't seen nor heard of their fear of, let's say, Armageddon coming. But the ones that I do bump into always have had that rap, in terms of the end is near. And strangely enough, probably the end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end. It's a snake eating its tail, right? And so it's a big giant circle, and the people who live in fear will possibly have more fear. The people living in light will have more light. So focus yourself on what you want to create, and that's probably what's going to happen, regardless of what else is going on out there. Because right now, as we speak, there's war, that there's famine, that there's also abundance, people living very, very happy and healthy and wealthy. So it's all happening simultaneously, and it's where we fix our minds that makes it happen.
But it's kind of funny that the survivalist movement now in the States says, well, people say something might go wrong, we don't know what's going wrong, but even computer experts say we have a little hideout in the mountains, Nevada, whatever, we put some food there, stuff like that, and when the time comes, we go there, we have a safe place for a year or whatever. But the people that are meeting out there is people that left civilization 20 years ago.
That's true. You find also, it's the people who have a lot of money, I have found, are the ones that are most worried.
They have the most to lose.
That's right. So they're concerned with what they have to lose, and they're also very, very busy right now buying all the survival stuff to prepare themselves.
That's the whole business in the States now.
Yes, big business for a major catastrophe.
So, and when you say that they buy candles, but also water purifiers, whatever,
You
tents.
name it, on everything under the sun, they can afford to, to set themselves up so that they survive if something does happen. I believe that hopefully this brings them closer to reality because they live too much of a cushioned life. And sometimes, I have nothing against living in very good comfort. But when it separates you from reality, then it's time for you to take a little, step outside the cushion and have a taste of reality to wake up.
There were a few stories in Wired. It's the magazine for the Diterati, for the people that are in computers, and the stories were about fairly expert computer programmers who were in the Millennium Bug business, and they dropped out, or they said, yeah, we have this place and we're hiding stuff and we're buying M16 guns and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy to see the computer eat itself.
Yeah, that's what the demon does. The demon eats itself. It's like the darkness gets bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger, like a black hole sucking itself into this dark hole. But again, if you live in the light and it's your perception, you know what I mean? You see me as somebody a certain way, then that's who I am to you. If you see me another way, then that's who I am to you. So we hope that we tune these fine tools, these instruments that we've been given to see beauty, to be compassionate, but at the same time, not to live in a dream. We also have to be very practical people, and be prepared at a certain level. I'm a person of great belief.
You're talking about spiritual preparedness. You're not going to buy food.
I might even buy some food, but it's buying fear that I'm not going to buy.
Okay. Where are you going to be December 31st, 1999?
I have no idea. I've been invited to a few parties in Hawaii, Australia, and elsewhere. And I don't really
Australia
know.
at least is a little bit hotter than here.
I think that Australia sounds good to me. So at this moment, I'm getting a pull for Australia. But you know that we also will have a very big a 24-hour around the world television event.
Multicast, whatever.
Yeah, so this event is taking place out of London, and a bunch of my friends are actually some of the heads and producers of this event. So if the spirit pulls me, I might be there to help them take little breaks and help charge them and be in a good spirit so that they can project the new millennium coming in with as much optimism and consciousness as possible. But maybe it'll be Australia. We'll see.
We'll see. This was Fantuzzi, our good friend and master drummer from the USA, but actually one of our global citizen friends. Thank you for your opinion about the millennium.
Peace.